Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and in this lead magnet guide, you're going to get 9 solid lead magnet ideas you can use to help grow your email list, timestamps below, along with some other helpful videos to building out the rest of your funnel and lead generation process. So here we're going to go through 3 different types. We're going to go through text-based lead magnets, and these can be a Word doc or PDF. This can be a report, a resource guide, an audit, or a template. Then we're going to go through what you can do with Google Sheets or an Excel sheet. Now I know it's probably not the first thing you want to hear when you're looking at what to create for a lead magnet. Nobody really likes putting these together, but I'll show you how you can easily outsource the creation of these. And of course, this can be anything from a tracker, organizer, to a calculator. And then finally, we'll go through video training. And this can be anything from a video sales letter to a 4-part series to a webinar. It's my least favorite, but we'll cover how to actually do it effectively. So no matter what you choose, these all help set you up for success when it comes to selling your products or services. Now, the good news is lead magnets are nothing new. What's important is that they are valuable, which is the first key to success. But as you can see here, we went through digging through some archives. You can see that ever since there was advertising, pretty much there have been lead magnets. Of course, we have the ability to just ask for a name and email. It's rather simple now, although back in the day, as you can see with this example, they would send out the lead magnet snail mail. So however you're delivering your lead magnet, the good news is there's a long history of lead magnets actually working. Now, the second key to success when it comes to creating your lead magnet, irrespective of which 9 of these you ultimately choose, is it has to solve an immediate problem. And key to success number 3 is it needs to be user-friendly. What's very important here is that you make sure that your lead magnet solves a problem that is small. You don't want to try and solve everything for your ideal customer prospect right off the bat, because what's most important is people actually go through and consume your lead magnet so they see the value in it, and then you're set up for better success when it comes to whatever your product or service is, because the whole point of the lead magnet is to, of course, warm up prospects. Okay, that's enough with the little history lesson and the keys to success. Let's go ahead and jump in. The very first type of lead magnet that I recommend you make is an audit, and an audit is simply designed to magnify the mess. Essentially, this is just a 3 to 5 page PDF or Word document that walks someone through a particular process or series of questions so that they can better understand what problems they're facing, and then also see how if they don't fix it now, it might actually get worse later on. So let's go through 4 key points here, and then we'll jump into a couple of examples. So what's most important with your audit is making sure that it's focused on a very specific problem and that you can call out solutions that are relatively easy to start fixing the problem. So the problem doesn't necessarily have to be solved, but you need to include something in your audit where they can start making some baby steps towards fixing possible errors. So let's go through an example, because there's a little too pie in the sky, right? So one example here is an analytics checklist. And so this is something that we used to offer potential analytics clients, and all it was a 7-page document. I know I said 3 to 5, but we went a little overboard on this one. It was 7 pages, and essentially it walked someone through their analytics account, making sure that their settings weren't getting in the way of their conversion tracking. And that was it. We didn't touch anything about how to change code on the website or how to improve their ad campaigns. We focused on one specific part of the advertising process, which is making sure analytics is recording your data correctly, and then showing them different settings that they could change in order to improve their marketing. And that was it. Of course, at the end of the audit, we included some things that they might want to look at that would require more than just clicking some buttons, and that helped set us up for the sales conversation for what was at the time our analytics offer. Now, another great way to create an audit is to create a quiz. Now, this is something where someone's just going to go through a couple of questions. As you can see here, we could create a diet quiz, and someone could go through answering different questions, and by the end of it, they probably have a pretty good understanding of why they're not achieving the weight goals that they want because of the food that they're eating. And sometimes all an audit needs to do is just make people aware of their own behavior. Just adding some self-awareness is incredibly powerful. Now, here's another example that's actually a real-world one, offering a social media checklist. So someone can go through this checklist and template and find all of the things that they are doing incorrectly with their social media marketing, or just settings they forgot to check when setting up their social profiles. Another marketing example we have here is the top level holistic marketing audit. So this is an audit very similar to what we do with Google Analytics, but more on someone's entire marketing plan. I'm a bigger fan of going as detailed as possible with the audits, but doing sort of these holistic ones work as well. It's just a lot easier to give someone quick wins when you're very specific. Now, this final one is not from marketing, and this is a skincare quiz, just helping someone go through and figure out whether or not they should be changing their skincare routine or they're doing something wrong in their skincare routine, which I guess would be the same thing as needing to change it. Anyway, these are just a couple examples of an audit, or you can create a quiz. I like doing an audit just because it's a lot faster than finding software to use to create a quiz. Now, when it comes to creating your audit, it's only going to take you about a week, and the cost is going to be very minimal because you can use free tools like Canva and Google Docs. Now, this next one on the list, number 2, is going to be the calculator, and it's actually my second favorite. Now, what's great about a calculator is you can do all of the work for your ideal customer. All they have to do, your prospects have to do, is type in their numbers, and then you do all the math, and you spit out the result or the example. Now, what's really important here with this particular type of lead magnet is it's jargon-free, it's very easy to use, and it has to have very, very clear directions, because most people don't like using Excel sheets or Google Sheets, but they want the information that can come from using it. They just don't want to have to build it themselves. So that's why you're building the lead magnet for them. And so as long as you can do all the math for them, you make it very clear where the inputs are, you're going to have a very powerful lead magnet on your hands. So as an example, something that we've done in the past is we've offered a lead magnet called the Paid Media Calculator. All this was a very simple Google Sheet where someone could type in how much their ad spend was, how much they were spending per click on average, and then some of their sales metrics, and then the tool would tell them how much they could spend on their ads or how much they could afford to scale before they would start seeing a negative return on their ad spend. Here's another example. Let's say someone's trying to build a home, right? Well, they want to know how much is it going to cost to build my dream home, because it's really easy to flip through magazines, or I guess more like Pinterest or Instagram, and go, oh, that'd be really cool to have in my dream house someday, but how much will it actually cost? And so if we were a contractor offering something like this to help someone start to figure out how much it would actually cost to build what they want, would be very valuable. So let's go through 2 real world examples. The first one, of course, is another financial example, and this would just be a calculator to help someone figure out how much is their tax going to be this year. As a fellow small business owner, I can tell you it's really arduous come the end of the year when you start looking at things and go, oh my gosh, did I make enough in my quarterly payments, right? Or if you have to deal with payroll or 1099 with contractors, right? So this would be great for a tax accountant or some sort of financial advisor. The final example we have here is just a good old-fashioned budget spreadsheet. Everybody has to have a budget, or everyone should have a budget, I should say. Even if you haven't written it down, you're following some sort of budget. And so this could be a great tool for someone who's in the financial niche. Now, when it comes to how much this is going to cost, you can probably get away with getting a simple calculator for around $25, especially when you can describe what you want, and you can just go to Upwork or Fiverr to get someone to do this. If you wanted to get fancy and you really want a nice one, you could spend upwards of $100, $150, although I don't recommend that for a lead magnet. If you're spending more than $50, you're spending way too much on this lead magnet. So the next example is going to be going back to text and Word docs and PDFs, and that's going to be a template. Now, with a template, you are laying out your personal process and doing as much of the work for them as possible. Now, templates really work well when you have achieved a result that your ideal customer or prospect wants, because then you can just point to your results and say, hey, if you want to achieve the results that I had, here's the exact process that I followed. Here's my template. So just fill in the blank with your particular answers, and you're going to find success with that. So again, with our template, we want to make sure that it's very user-friendly and it's very clear where people should be filling in their information. I can't tell you how many lead magnets I've gone through that seem to be confusing because they're just trying to do too much, right? So here's an example of a template that we have. It's our Tag Manager Playbook. And all it is a simple I think it's 5 pages now. We keep adding pages to it, but I think it's it's 5 pages now, where someone can put all of their tracking codes and start labeling where their conversion tags are on which pages. And so it doesn't actually do much math. It doesn't do any calculations because it's just a PDF, but it helps people stay organized and it helps people follow our same process, especially when it comes to naming conventions for how to actually stay organized with all of their tracking throughout their sales funnel. Now, depending upon your niche, this next example might be a little more up your alley because the template doesn't necessarily have to be in text or PDF form. If, let's say, you're in video editing and you want to offer some sort of graphics or pre-done elements, you could offer an Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro file that has some of the things that you use in your own videos or you use for clients. And so obviously this isn't necessarily going to work for anyone outside of video editing, but it's an example of how you can actually create templates and give them to people, and they don't necessarily have to be just a PDF or a Word doc. It can be some sort of file that your ideal customer would be working with. Now, this next example here is a collection of templates and examples for creating ebooks. So someone who's writing an ebook just might need to know how to format it or how to actually put together their chapters or how to properly hyperlink things so when they convert it to EPUB format, it doesn't get all messed up, which I can tell you is a real pain. So those types of things would be valuable to aspiring authors. This next one is from HubSpot, and it's just 25 sales email templates. And so these are fill in the blank templates. Someone who needs to send sales emails can go through a bunch of them and then just choose the ones that work best for them. You want to make sure that you don't overwhelm your prospects with the number of templates. So something like this makes sense because they're probably highly specialized, but the less templates you can get away with giving, the better. And that's not to say you're trying to get from your prospects. You just don't want to overwhelm people. If this said 500, probably nobody would opt in because nobody wants to have to go through 500 different templates. So the more specific and smaller you can make your template library or your template offering, the better. This next example here is from Digital Marketer, where they actually take some of their Facebook ads and then they just break down how they structured them and how they wrote them, and now it's a template. So they've taken something that they've already completely put together and then they turned that into a lead magnet, simply breaking down how they put together their Facebook ads so other people can follow the same format, right? So we're creating something that's easy for others to copy, whether it's just fill in the blanks, answering a couple of questions as in a worksheet, or we're giving them a full-blown file that they can import into their video editing software to create their own videos, right? So the next one we have is going to be a planner. And so the power of a planner is helping someone create a plan for success. I guess that's the simplest way to put it, right? So there's not anything super fancy or complicated you need to do with a Google Sheet or Excel sheet. You're essentially just organizing how you would plan out a process. And so as an example, one of the lead magnets we have is a content calendar. So we've created a calendar inside of Google Sheets and we've added a couple of extra fields like content category and the type of post it might be. And then people can download it and use the exact same template we use to schedule out all the content and videos like this one, right? So it's not about the complexity of the sheet. It's about how simple you can make a process for your ideal customer. So our next example here would be a garden planner, because you can't just throw seeds in a part of your backyard and then magically things grow, right? You actually have to plan out what you're going to plant where and when. And so creating a basic sheet that has a calendar and then maybe has an example of different rows and different fruits and vegetables that can work together would be very helpful to a beginner gardener like myself who would have no idea what to plant when or where. Now, another example here is a trip planner. So someone can download this and be able to properly plan out their trips, where they're going to eat lunch, where they're going to eat dinner, what attractions they want to see, and of course, figuring out how much of their day they're going to be stuck waiting in line. Of course, assuming that they can actually travel, right? So this next example here is just a day planner, which is pretty straightforward, helping someone plan out their day for maximum productivity. The next example we have here, we have a lot of planner examples, is a meal plan. And as someone who recently just come off several months of dieting, meal plans are really, really valuable to those who are trying to figure out how to become healthier. And our final example here is a student planner, right? Because every student has tons of homework and we need to figure out how to get all that homework done, right? I said we as if I still have homework. I don't still have homework, but if I did, this would be valuable, right? So the next one we have on our list is going to be a report. And all a report is doing is taking a bunch of information and condensing it down into a very easy to read, jargon-free format where someone can make a decision. So it's very important that you don't just throw a bunch of information at someone. They actually need to be able to make a decision based upon whatever information you're providing. So we want to make sure that it's in plain English. This is not the time to sound smart by saying a bunch of terms that your prospect probably doesn't know. We don't want to make them feel stupid. We want them to read it and go, oh, wow, I totally get it. I'm going to go ahead and buy that stock. Or, oh, wow, I totally get it. I'm going to go ahead and use that advertising platform, right? We need it to be simple and relatable to our ideal customer. We're not trying to sound smart by using a bunch of words that they may or may not know. So as an example here, we could create a PPC keywords report. We could offer a condensed list of the best types of keywords that someone could go after when running Google pay-per-click campaigns, and we could include lists of types of keywords that don't work. Like anything that includes how to in the phrase is always a terrible word to use for Google search ads. And this next example, of course, will be a lot more self-explanatory. It could just be a report on the best 5 dividend stocks to buy now, or the best 5 growth stocks to buy now, or the best 5 bonds to grow now, or the best 5 whatever fill in the blank investment, right? So of course you do need to be careful if you're doing anything with investment advice. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm just saying that there's a lot that you need to be aware of when it comes to giving any sort of advice that might be construed as financial advice. Now this next example, you don't have to worry about that at all. And this could be a baking report. Someone who really, really wants to get into baking. There is a lot of science and measurements that go into being a really good baker beyond just looking something up on Pinterest and trying it out because it looks good, right? And so creating some sort of report that goes through those intricacies would be very valuable to someone who really wants to become a serious baker. Now, this next example is from a site called Larry Law, where he's taken a bunch of interview questions and career questions and condensed them down into an easy to digest and read PDF. So someone who's trying to be a lawyer or figure out if they want to be a lawyer, they don't have to go reading 20 or 30 different blog posts. They can just go through all of these questions and be prepared for whatever they need to be in terms of being a lawyer, I guess. And with the report, it's probably going to take you anywhere from 7 to 14 days to actually make. And that's simply because you're going to have to do quite a bit of research, or you'll be hiring someone to do that research for you and then condensing it down. It's always cheaper to just hire someone to do all of that information gathering and researching for you, and then you go through and write it, as opposed to trying to find someone who can do the research and do the writing for you. So if you want to keep it under $50, just go ahead and find a virtual assistant who can do all of that data and information gathering, and then you can go ahead and in just a couple days condense all that information down and create an easy to read report. Now, this next one on our list is a tracker. So we're back to an Excel or a Google Sheet. And as the name would suggest, all we're doing is helping someone track their progress. And so with a tracker, just like the other sheets we've talked about, it's very important to make sure that it's easy to follow, where people are supposed to put in the information is very clear and is tied to a very specific goal. So we're looking for creating some sort of efficiency here in someone working towards achieving what they ultimately want. So our first example here would be a goal tracker. So someone could put in their goals for the month or the quarter or the year, and then we'd have some sort of calendar or some sort of list where they can track their progress. So another way to think of this is the opposite side of the planner. So the planner helps someone make the plan and the tracker helps someone implement it. Now, you wouldn't want to give both at the same time because that would be a little too overwhelming, but you can choose one or the other for your lead magnet. Another example we have here would be a food storage tracker, right? Prepping is actually a really big thing, especially now. And so we could give someone a tool where they could put in their food inventory, that's in their pantry, along with the dates that things expire. And so it's really easy for someone to, on probably a monthly or quarterly basis, go in and see what's about to expire so they can pull that out of their pantry, buy a new one, and actually use it that month, which is pretty much the cycle of using food in the pantry. I know that sounds really basic and simple, but when you're talking about preppers who have a lot of cans, it starts to become actually significant and helpful. So a real world example we have here is from QuickBooks, and they offer a inventory tracker. So it's just a template Excel sheet that allows people who have physical goods to keep track of how many they have and how many they sold and when they might need to go buy some more inventory. This next example we have here is a lease asset tracker. So someone who has a lot of different assets, whether they're leasing out rental equipment or they're just leasing out rental properties, they can easily keep track of who's leased what, when it's due, the fees that have been paid, and of course, all of those legal documents that you have to keep track of when it comes to leasing. So when it comes to creating your tracker, it's probably going to take you about a week, and you're looking at about $30 if you decided to hire someone. And of course, we're just using Google Sheets and Excel. Now, this next one on our list is going to be the resource guide, and this could actually be one of the quickest ones to put together. And all you're doing here is saying, hey, you know what, if I was going to do X, I would go to these resources. I would use this list of people. So this could be contact information, this could be vendors, and this could just be software that you use. What's important with the resource list is you're saving your prospects a lot of time and trial and error, because they don't want to have to go read a bunch of reviews on who they should hire. They don't want to have to go read a bunch of reviews on what software they should be using for their marketing, right? They just want to know, hey, what do you use? What have you tested? Just tell me which one to use so I can go use it and get it done. Another great part of creating a resource guide is a lot of these links can be affiliate links. Now, obviously you have to do disclaimers. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not telling you how you have to do your disclaimers. But of course, if you do decide to put affiliate links in your resource guide, which actually turns your lead magnet into something that can generate revenue, you want to make sure that you're following any sort of legal guidelines that you need to. So as an example, we could create a savvy marketing toolkit where we could just list out all of the marketing tools that we use. And something that we've done in the past is we've listed out a free tool, and then we've listed out kind of like an entry-level tool, and then we'll list out a premium tool or a tool for scaling. So you don't necessarily only have to have one for each one of whatever your categories are. You could have an introductory, an intermediate, and then an advanced, because you're going to have lots of different types of prospects. Another example here would be just a hiking essentials, right? Just making a list of the gear that you like to use or I like to use when we go hiking, right? Because being outside would be nice right about now, right? So you can go ahead, and it doesn't necessarily have to be things that someone's going to purchase. It could also be things that you might be helping them get organized for a specific event. So if you were, let's say, a musician and you actually still got to book gigs, well, maybe you'd create a resource list of the 10 things like I never do a gig without, right? Or something to that effect. So it doesn't always have to be purchases. It could also be a resource list or a checklist for someone to go through for a specific event that they are going to, assuming they get to, right? I should stop with that clarification. So let's go on to the next example here. So one example here is from this blogging website where they just list out all of the tools that helped make their blog successful. And then our final example here is from a dating website, Master Offline Dating, offering a collection of tools to help someone with their dating. So when it comes to how long this is going to take you to put together, it's probably only going to take you a day or two. You're not going to need to hire anyone because you're just thinking about resources that you personally use, and then you'll be good to go. So this next one on our list is going to be the organizer. And this one's probably the hardest Google Sheet or Excel sheet to put together, which is why it's so late in our process. But let's go ahead and go through it. So all you're needing to do with an organizer is creating a framework for storing information so people can easily reference it later. So think of it as, especially if you are a type A personality like myself, then this is a great opportunity. If you're not, then you probably want to skip this one, because all you're doing is creating a really organized structure for someone so that they can put their information there and that they can keep it. But you can also help people in the real world as well, which with our final example. So our first example here of an organizer is something that we offer, and it's called the UTM Builder. And so what this Google Sheet does, it allows people to create their tracking links and then store their tracking links, because when it comes to Google Analytics and tracking, you actually can't do anything retroactive. So we help people figure out how they should name their different traffic sources and classify those traffic sources. And then it's a resource that they can keep going back to and organize all of their links in one place and make sure every time they make a new link, they're following a standardized process. Now, if you're looking for an example in the real world, we can go to this lead magnet that is a free home declutter jumpstart kit. And this helps someone declutter their physical space, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be organizing information in the cloud someplace. It can be IRL and helping someone organize their actual physical space. And a final example here would be an estate planning tool. I know it's always an awkward conversation if you've ever had to have that with your parents. Well, if you die, where's all your stuff, right? As someone who's had family members who've had to go through probate, this is definitely something that would be valuable to anyone who's starting to think about planning their estate, right? Just making sure all of the banking accounts and all the assets or important information is in one place. And so when it comes to this, it's probably going to take you anywhere from 2 to 5 days. And of course, this will be a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet. Now go ahead and hit that like button if you're still with me. Totally forgot to ask for that earlier. Let's go ahead and jump into the last type here, and that is going to be the training. Now, this is the most time-consuming one, which is why we're doing it last, because it's going to take you forever to make a really good training. If you've ever been on a webinar, chances are you've been on a webinar that was terrible. Like the first 30 or 40 minutes of it was just a pitch. They had maybe 1 or 2 actual golden nuggets of information, and then they pitched their product or service again. And you just sat there going, wow, I just wasted 90 minutes of my life. We don't want to do that to your ideal customers, to your prospects. And the good news is you don't have to create a 90-minute webinar in order to make a training for an offer. So your training can be live or pre-recorded. I recommend doing a pre-recorded thing because I've had to do lives before. When I first started, I thought it would be a good idea to do a bunch of hybrid webinars, and I just spent all day sitting on webinars that hoping someone would show up. So go ahead, do a pre-recorded version first until you get a large enough email list where you can actually confidently drive people to a live event. And so what's important with this training, number one, is it's actually valuable. This is so important. You need to be able to make some sort of training where someone doesn't watch it and think, why didn't they just put that on YouTube, right? And that's a valid question for a lot of trainings out there. And so it is very hard to create some sort of training that justifies someone entering their name and email just to watch a video. And so one of the best things you can do here is choose something that you personally have discovered out of your own experience and make the training around that. Because if you make a training around basic information that's not necessarily a secret, then it's going to fall flat on its face. So here are the different types of training that you can do. These all fall under training. So it can be a super specific training video where you talk about your secret approach. This could be a 10 to 20 minute video max. That's all it needs to be. You don't need a 90-minute webinar. You can do a VSL if you know how to write sales copy, or you can have an automated webinar or live webinar, which I don't recommend doing. I really recommend starting with a specific training that's just 10 to 20 minutes, value packed based on your experience, secrets that you've learned, and you can share with your ideal customer prospects. Excuse me for hitting the mic so many times. And it's just really important that your webinar doesn't, or your video training doesn't wind up just being basic information someone could have found on YouTube. That's going to be a negative in your sales process. It's actually going to hurt you rather than help you, even though you got that email for the training. And so as an example here, we could have a webinar of someone who knows how to sell stock photography. There are a lot of intricacies in that. And so it would make sense for someone who has successfully sold stock photography in the past. I haven't, but this is just an example of someone who's successfully done that, sharing their tips and insights. And so with the webinar, you might have a little bit of basic information, but the real meat needs to be secrets that you've personally learned, and that's how you guarantee that your presentation is actually valuable and not just full of a bunch of information people could have found elsewhere, right? So when it comes to creating your video training, it's probably going to take you anywhere from 15 to 30 days or more. It's going to cost you over $100 because you're probably going to want to have some sort of graphics or hire a video editor. If you do everything yourself, that 30-day timeline is probably going to be closer to 60 days for really getting a nice looking good presentation down. Not just something you'd find on YouTube, not to rag on myself in this long video, but it really is important that your training is unique and different from what someone would find just across social media. So if hopefully by now you have an idea, if you don't, I have two last ditch resources for you. They're not example, but bonus round because you stuck out through the end. Hit that like button. So the first resource I have for you is Swipeworthy. This is a website that collects a bunch of landing pages and sales pages and also collects lead magnets. So you can actually go through their different categories and you can see ideas that have been successful in the past of other lead magnets and landing pages. Of course, you can look at landing pages to figure out other people's lead magnets, just like you can look at other people's ads. So if you really don't have an idea of what to do for your lead magnet, you can head on over to Facebook and just search a Facebook page of a big company or influencer in your niche or industry, and you can scroll down on the left-hand side. You can click on Page Transparency, and then you can click on Ad Library, and then you can actually see all of the ads that page has been running. And most of the time, you're going to be able to click on that, see the landing page, and then be able to figure out what lead magnets are being offered. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form an endorsement for just copying other people's lead magnets. It's just not going to work. If your prospects have seen that lead magnet and then they see yours, they know you've copied it, right? But it does give you some examples. One of the things I like to really do is to just go to influencers' pages in other niches and look at how they're making offers and then create some sort of version for my niche. And that way you're drawing inspiration and there's no way that you're going to accidentally copy someone else because you're pulling from an example from a completely different niche or industry. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you got some value out of this video and you have an idea out of the 9 that we went through and all of those examples. Comment below with your lead magnet questions, your creation questions, best resources for creating your lead magnets. And of course, if you still have no idea, you got to the end, you're looking at this like, I still don't know what to do, go ahead and comment below with a little bit about your business and your situation, and we can help you figure out a lead magnet idea for you. So hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive marketing tactics and strategies just like this one. And until the next, keep building the business you love.